Greetings, it's Compiler and welcome to the Introduction to Blender for Game Developer series. In this video we will have a look at how can we create materials for our models. So let's get started. Okay, so the proper way of creating appearances for our models is through materials. And of course the simplest way possible is to create one type of appearance per material. So here we have our model. It consists of several different parts, which is why it will be easier to color them, for instance. In order to do that, we have to select our piece of object, in this case this frame, and we can go here to the properties area, which is called material properties, down there below this red checked circle. We open it up, and by default we already have a material in there. It may be not, it may be as it is here. So basically, if you don't have anything in this list, you can create them by pressing this plus button. Or you can delete material that you don't want by pressing this minus button. Okay, so I'll delete that. Now, this is something that you can see if you don't have a default material by default. So you can click plus. It'll create a slot for your material. Then you can either choose material from the list, from the already created ones, or you can press the new button and it will create you the material. And of course here we have some configurations for this material. Of course, it is kind of simple. We can go to the shader editor in order to have a look at how it actually looks like. So basically to do that, we can simply go to the workspace called shading. We open it up and we have something like this. So first of all, there is a 3D viewport once again in the middle. At the bottom we have this shader graph I was talking about, where we can create procedural materials, for example. On the left side we have the folders, the Solution Explorer, the file explorer of our Windows, which is in Blender. So if we want to import some files, you can find them here and drag them just to this node editor. And here down below we have an image preview. If we use textures, we can click on that, select the new texture here, and have a look at how it looks like. Okay, on the right side, everything is exactly the same as previously. So what do we have now? Of course, the material was already created by the name of material 001. We can still access these material properties over here of this list. The same thing as we did here for creating new material can be done in this shader graph. So basically we have a list of materials to assign for slot. So if you press here, you can swap between those materials that you have available. And you have, of course, a list of slots. If you click on slot 1, we have only one slot, at the same thing as here. So in order to change, for example, the color, it is pretty simple. We have this by default two nodes. The first one is called Principal BSDF, and the second one is called Material Output, and they are connected. In order to see something should be connected always to the surface of Material Output. If it doesn't, well, we have a black surface of the material. So it is important to check whether everything is connected to the surface. By default, it should be. Okay. So in case of simplest materials, this should be just enough to change the appearance. So in this Principal BSDF, it is a, let's say, standard preset for creating materials, where everything that we could possibly have is already added there. Right? We have a list of a few configurations. So what could be the most important for us right now is, of course, the base color. We can click here, for example, on this white panel. It will open up a color picker, and then we can select a color that we want. So for example, it can be like reddish or more orangish color. Sorry. So basically here, if I wanted to create brown, I would select something in the spectrum of the red and orange, and then just on the right side we have this another slider, and we can just simply drag it down, for example, to make it darker, and somehow like this we can create a brown color for our material. So base color is pretty simple to change. On the left side of this property we have a pen, so basically if we want we can connect textures to here, but in this video we will have a look at just what can be set up without importing anything to our project. So what else important do we have here? Important, I mean the properties that are most frequently used, for example, for game engines, where we have to create materials. For example, base color, it could be called diffuse, yeah. For example, here we have metallic, it could be metallicness, and of course we always have, for metallic materials, we always have metallic maps. So basically, if I will increase this metallic value from 0 to 1, just drag in this slider, I will see that it changes something. Of course, the more metallic material is, the darker it becomes, and it starts to reflect light a bit differently. Okay. The next thing that we can have a look at is the roughness, because we also have roughness maps for our materials. So basically, roughness defines how much reflections do we have on this specific material. Yeah. So basically, if you have metallic to 1 and roughness to 0, we will have something that resembles a mirror, for example. Yeah. And of course, the color adds this colorful tint. Okay. So in this case, this beam would probably be wooden. So basically, we can reduce the metallic because the wood doesn't have any value of metallicness, and then we can increase roughness somehow like this, maybe not too much, to get a little bit of reflections. So this is exactly the way how can you color different materials. So if you want to add anything else to any other object over here, for example to this roof, we can just select it here in the shading workspace, select an object, and then we have a new shader graph for this object. So basically right now we don't have any slots. Once again, we can either click plus to create a new one, or once again just click new, and it will create quickly a material. And of course it's a good practice to change the names of materials, because we have right now material 2 and there we have material 1. So I will rename it, for example, to wood, or this material can be, well, let's say a roof. Okay. So here we can add a different color, like a bit of greenish, maybe a bit darker, something like this, or maybe try blue one. Okay, that looks nice. Of course, it could be a bit metallic, depending on the material it was created from. So basically, I can just increase it a little bit and change the roughness a bit lower than on the wood to make it even more reflective. Okay, so once again, for every other object that you have, you can repeat the same thing. But here, for example, for this beam, it could also be wooden. So basically, I just can select a wood material that we have created previously, and it will attach the same material. Good thing to notice is that this material is exactly the same as this one. So basically, if I change something like roughness, it will be changed for all the object that uses this material. So it's not like a copy of material for every object, it's one for everything. If you want to create a copy, for example here, just increase it a little bit, okay? For example here, if you want to change something by just a little, but keep the configurations of this material, we can click here, and it creates a new material, Namimit Wood 1. So basically right now, it's a copy of the previous material. We can change it any way we like. For example, add it a bit more reddish color. It looks different and it doesn't affect anything else over here. Okay, so once again, for everything else, just select the proper materials and it should be fine. So I've added new materials and new colors to everything that is separated. So basically for each and single model, everything now is colored, and what is left is just the pieces that have been connected somehow. So basically here we have the base of the house. As we can see, this beam connected is to the house, and of course those windows also are. So right now it won't be enough to create new material for that, just one. I can of course try, for example, to add wood here, and it will color everything together. It may be what I want, it may be not, but still I will create a new material for the walls, make it somehow like this, maybe a bit darker. Okay, bit more rough. And now what is important is for us to change several parts of the mesh to have new materials. For that, of course, we will have to add a new slot. So basically I click slot, click plus here, or just click plus here. It will also create a slot. Now it is empty. I can either choose something from here. For those beams, I already have material, so it can be, for example, of a standard wood. And now we have two slots with two materials. The thing is that now there is no way to add those specific materials to those specific faces. So what can we do with that? To that, we will have to go to the edit mode. So basically I can just select an object, press tab on the keyboard to allow me to select those faces. So right now I just have to select those parts of the material, of the mesh that I want to color. So for example here, this one, okay, this piece, okay, I missed. Somehow like this, okay. In this case, this loop, and that's probably it, okay. So now, having those selected, you can notice that on the right side, under this list of materials, we have new buttons. They appeared only when we are in edit mode. So basically, if I exit it, there will be nothing visible, okay? So I go to edit mode, once again, everything is selected, and with selected faces, I select the material I want to assign to them. For example, this is the second one, and I click assign. And now everything is colored the way that it is required to. Of course, we can see here not as the colors are not well distributed as was intended because we have a bevel modifier. We can of course change that, but still this is the way exactly how to do that. And we can repeat it, for example, for windows, because as you can see, windows are also parts of the base of the house. So I can add a new material here, create a new one, call it windows, change the base color maybe to blue. Let's see how it looks like. And now assign this color to material. Okay, probably the blue color is not the best here. We can either make it a bit lighter, or the other way, you can make it a bit yellowish, because most probably in fantasies they have like parchment on the windows, not the glass, but still it depends on what you want. Of course, we can increase, for example, the metallicness or roughness, decrease it in order to have like something similar to the reflection. Of course, the reflective material will not be transferred, for example, to Unity as actually the colors. So adding something like this, like reflections, etc., the transparency to materials, it will require you to create new material. Everything will require you to create new materials in Unity, actually. So basically, this thing that you do, it may not be looking exactly as it is right now in shading, okay? Neither in Unity nor during the render of Blender project. Okay? And so the same thing you can repeat for all the windows that you have here. Assign, okay, to the windows, and there we have it. Okay, I will remove this roughness and metallicness, and something like this looks kind of nice. Okay. Apart from a side button, we also have two other buttons. One of them is called select, and one of them is called deselect. So basically, if you press deselect, everything gets deselected from this material. Okay, and if you select, for example, this material, click select, it will select all the faces that are assigned to this specific material. Okay, and deselects them. So in case you want to, you can select everything. And for example, I want to change only those beams, so I can select the wood and press deselect to everything else. Oops. Deselect to everything else of the model, and I only have beams. Same thing should be done here because these two meshes are different. This one is exactly the wall with a glass in there with the window, and the window consists of two parts. One's probably will be metal and the other one is the frame. And the same thing for the door. So I will add them and we will get further. Alright, so I suppose I've colored everything on this model with the materials. And now we can go back to the layout workspace, for example. If we do that, we can see that nothing really is showing up. Everything is of the default color. So in order to actually see those all materials, you will have to change the shading options, okay? Over here in the right top corner of our viewport, we have those 4 buttons over here. So the second one is right now selected, is viewport shading solid. So basically, each one of them changes the way how things are displayed on our application. So the first one is for displaying the wireframe. It just shows you only the edges of the model. The second one of the solid is where it is kind of easy to work, yeah, because we can see all those edges pretty well. And nothing really gets in our way. The third one is to have a look at materials. So basically here we will see the same thing as in solid, but with material preview, still no reflections, no light is applied. And the last one is for render, so in case you want to render it, you can preview it quickly inside of the render preview. Depending on your selected render engine, it will look differently, but right now, as you can see, I have a light object of the sun, and we already have those shadows over here. Okay, so if you want to look to work with this model further or to create new ones, seeing those materials, you can do that by selecting this viewport shading material properties. Alright, so this is pretty much it concerning the creation of the most simple materials, where we have only the configuration of several options over here: base color for the color, metallicness to add more metallic look, and the roughness to increase it to either to have more rough materials or more decrease it to have glossy materials, okay, more reflective. The one important thing to remember here is for exporting this model, those materials are not really transferable. So basically, if you have only colors, for example in Unity or in Unreal, it can provide you with a, let's say, a copy of this material from Blender where will you have some configurations. Some of them may actually be the same as you have in Blender, so it may look kind of similar, but still it is recommended to, in Unity and in Unreal Engine, to create your own materials, to set up them there and assign them later to this exported mesh. Okay. So if you found this video interesting or helpful, give a like, post a comment, and of course subscribe. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.